Hi, everybody. Welcome to virtual team building. We're going to kind of go over some things with being in a new situation, being the remote, making sure that everybody is feeling confident and kind of working together like they would as in being within a building or as a team. So let's just dive right in. So when we really look at team building, it's very different when we're thinking about virtual team building, and we can't have those human interactions. We can't really focus on those social emotional needs that we normally would, or give that crying shoulder or that handshake or that hug that we always do. So how can we really take advantage of this situation that we might be in this alone at home, right? So how do we really get back to focus on who we are as a team? How do we really get all of our teachers and educators and our classes, our sports organizations all back together, so then we feel that family or that familial atmosphere again? So really, when we look at the why, kind of already discussed it a little bit, but also thinking about how we physically almost need that human interaction occasionally, and being in a workspace every day, feeding off of that energy that everybody else brings, it's very difficult to then come back to your house, your living situation, and then being in complete isolation from the outside world. So how do we really find that emotional balance? Because a lot of times you're separating your physical piece, it also drains you emotionally, and we really need to focus on that when we focus on just the different aspects. And when we get into this team building, these activities, they're really trying to promote that culture, that positive culture, that we have those interactions and we continue those interactions, and not just saying, oh well, I'm going to reach out and have this meeting with this person today. Sometimes that will work, but also that doesn't always necessarily fill that bucket emotionally. So the first kind of things I'm going to go into are things that really require everybody to have video, right? And it could be a virtual FaceTime, it could be Skype, it could be Zoom, it could be all these different programs that offer video chatting. But then how do we really interact with those video chats? It shouldn't just be, here's to the point, let's have a meeting, a virtual meeting, just to have a meeting. You could do those through emails, you could do those through other ways. So how can we really focus on getting that human interaction and that social emotional piece through this virtual piece? So we look at these activities. There's plenty of them on here. There's plenty more out there that I thought were definitely worthwhile to look into. But we think about ways to really lighten the mood and to really bring people together like you normally would at the water cooler, or in the hall, just those casual conversations that you would normally get. So let's think about how else can we engage. And so what we've done, even with our team earlier this week, I asked them to take 1 minute, prep, and then do circus tricks. It could be something such as juggling, it could be something such as drawing something really quickly, balancing acts, whatever it is. Have somebody share their weird tricks that they have, and it could be lip syncing even. It doesn't matter. It just allows people to show off something, and it really empowers them to share something that's more vulnerable that they normally wouldn't get to share at the office. You're never going to ask somebody to do a handstand or juggle in the office, and if you do, that's awesome. That's the way we want to see it. Have a virtual bake off, having people bring in their foods that they just baked. I know a lot of people are baking now or having more time to. I know my wife just made a bunch of croissants. It took 2 days to make, but they were delicious, and it's something that it really made her happy. But she wasn't able to share with anybody besides the family. And look at these pictures. Let me post on Instagram. But if you're able to kind of talk about it, the process, and really dive into it, you really allow each other to share a bit more about your personal lives, and that's really kind of where we can look into how to make ourselves more real and not just like the face on the screen. And so I kind of threw this other idea out there called House Hunters Home Tour. Give people a tour of your house, right? I mean, I know some situations in classrooms, it's not okay to do that, just because some students are proud of where they're living, and they're not, and that's why they put those virtual backgrounds up, and it really shows that socioeconomic status. But as adults, or if you feel comfortable asking your team to do so, it really gives insight to how people live and how people care, about certain rooms or certain objects. It could be just a show and tell. It could be something like a passionate room where their home office. Take a picture of your workspace, share it with people, right? And be that person that allows other people to see what you're doing. So I'm going to go into some other non-video activities, because not everybody has access to the same screen at all the times. And I know this happens with my teams a lot. Is we go online and we expect a meeting to happen, but something gets pushed back or something gets in the way. So we have to meet asynchronously. So what are some other activities that we can do? just to really gain insight onto other people's lives. We have done in the past like a secret summer Santa. We've done this at our school in the past where one teacher provides another teacher a gift without sending a card or anything, like just kind of that anonymous piece. And you could do this with any colleague, coworker, class, student, whatever it may be, and have them pair up and give each other gifts. What do they know about the person that they like? And it really gives you insight in thinking about how can you be more empathetic? How can you gain those relationships or bridge those relationships that you've already established and then make them a little bit more. I've always done personality tests, and I think these are great. Just depends on which ones you're really into and what your focus and what your planned outcomes are. So the one that I've really found interesting to me most recently, because I've done so many, just here's answering a question, here's a statement, and you have to say yes or no, right? The one that's most interesting to me was the Red Bull one, the Wing Finder, and it's all free, so you feel free to just jump in and do it. It takes about 30 to 40 minutes, but these are all images, and it tests your creativity, it tests your problem solving skills, it tests your innovation type, it tests your just how you interact and what ways you can improve those things, and it really gives you a great breakdown, and it's very scientific based. So if you're ever interested in learning more, I'd definitely try it out. It's one of those cool things that allow you to share who you are on a deeper level, and that kind of goes back to the next piece, which is my user manual. What makes you tick? And you can use some of those results that you got from those personality tests or whatnot to then establish what is your ideal workplace. Do you need to take some time in the morning to exercise or work out or meditate? Do you need to do this? And then you can create a PowerPoint presentation and then share it at your next meeting. This could work both ways with classrooms and teachers and educators. How do students best operate? Do they need frequent breaks? Do they really enjoy this topic in particular, and so on. There's always offline book clubs. You can write pen pals. You can make sure that there's discussion questions. You can connect through email. So there's all these different ideas where you can work still as a team and work asynchronously. I know I have a different schedule than a lot of my coworkers because, in the middle of the day, I have to put my child down for a nap. I have to make him lunch. I have to make sure that everything's taken care of on that front. So it's all these different small, minute things that we have to start balancing and understanding each other and building that empathy towards. And sometimes these asynchronous activities are the best way to do so. So just some other ideas before we kind of wrap up. Have a live remote office. Maybe I'll sign on at 8 in the morning and just keep my chat room open, right? And have people come in, talk just like they would, if they're passing by my desk or my office, whatever it may be, my classroom, and just really keep that open door policy almost, and just have that conversation and just bridge to whoever. It could just be open while everybody's working, and then everybody can just talk or chat or bring up topics, and just having those casual conversations like you normally would in the office. And sometimes that's where the best collaboration happens. Sometimes the best, insights or work habits form, just because everybody's accountable, but also keeps those barriers kind of lowered. Another one is donut chats, being able to pair up with another person in a different part of your business or your school or your organization, and just pair people up randomly and really get to talk and see, maybe you could work together on something later on. Maybe it's just 15 minutes to understand who this person is more or what makes them tick. Just connecting on a random basis with a different colleague is sometimes more beneficial to build that team morale than it is just sitting, I'm only going to talk to this person, or this is my only team, so I'm going to focus with my work with this. It makes everything a little bit more linear. Collaborative playlists. I mean, I'm a big music fanatic and passionate about music. So building music together and understanding, sometimes music can bring in a lot more conversations. What are your interests? What is this person's interest? And so kind of going back to this one too, is the last one is playing games online. And that doesn't always necessarily mean playing video games. There's ways that you can play Words with Friends or Scrabble or cards or chess, and some of those things really help bridge that gap between being here in front of a screen and sitting across from somebody and also challenging them and having that competitive atmosphere. Creating this type of culture just allows for that creativity, that innovation, and that self-advocacy to take off. And that's really the idea of team building, is bringing people together, putting everybody at the same level, and just seeing where things take you. And when we put this stigma of team building as just talking about their feelings and talking about how everybody is feeling and doing, that's really the biggest issue we usually have when kind of starting. So kind of wrap up, we have to think about what are we doing to really make ourselves a tight knit. It's very hard when we're so physically distant. So if we were able to break down that barrier virtually, open up like you normally would. And how can we do that, best is create competitions, create ways to engage on a different level than just having meetings or just having topics, and really take away the stigma of video or take away the stigma of jumping online or writing a letter, and just being empowered enough and being confident enough to go out and put yourself out there, even if it is virtually, because sometimes we have that idea of it has to be perfect if it's on video, or if it has to be perfect if it's on a presentation. And I know sometimes it drives more anxiety, but we have to be vulnerable in those situations in order to make sure that everybody understands who we are and how we can help and support the team. Because if they don't know how we interact with certain stresses or anxieties, then they're never going to understand how we react to do some of the work. So being able to put yourself out there is one of my best tricks to bond as a team. And I really just want to thank you guys now just kind of for listening, but also feel free to reach out. Davis at mymindhistoriclearning.org. Please feel free to email if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you have any comments. I'd love to hear them. We're always here to support you in your team building endeavors, your education pieces, and I really want to focus on how to break down those barriers. Please feel free. Emails at the bottom. I'm always here, and thank you for your time.